The ex-husband arrives at a party with his mistress. He thought he had buried the past, until suddenly he locks eyes with his stunning ex-wife and discovers something that leaves him shocked. The ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria in New York City shimmered under the weight of its crystal chandeliers, a world apart where success was the only currency that mattered. The air buzzed with the hum of calculated conversations and carefully curated laughter. Alex Carter, one of the rising stars in marketing at Sterling & Partners, felt the glass of bourbon in his hand grow slick with condensation, a cool contrast to the heat of the room and the radiant presence of Chloe beside him. She was a vision in her emerald green gown, a bold statement that drew eyes and cemented their status as the new power couple in the scene. The event celebrated the merger of Sterling with Creative Horizon Agency, a daring move that would reshape the marketing landscape in the Northeast. For Alex, it was the culmination of years of relentless ambition, the promise of an even brighter future. Chloe leaned in, her perfume enveloping him. "Look at this, darling, the top of the world. And you're right here, in the center of it all." He offered a practiced smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Beneath the surface, a restlessness stirred, a sense that the ground beneath him was about to shift. He chalked it up to the magnitude of the night, the pressure of being in the spotlight. The CEO, Victor Hammond, a man whose presence seemed to command the room before he even spoke, stepped up to the podium. A heavy silence fell over the crowd like a velvet curtain. "Good evening, everyone," Victor's voice boomed, steady and authoritative. "Tonight, we're not just celebrating a merger. We're celebrating the future, a future of innovation, of boundless creativity. And to lead this new era, to steer the creative soul of the new Sterling and Horizon, we've brought in someone from outside, someone whose vision left us flawed, a professional who was redefining the industry in Chicago and has agreed to come home and make history with us." Alex felt a chill race down his spine. A new creative director. This was news to him. He exchanged a quick glance with colleagues, who seemed equally in the dark. Speculation was part of the game, but Victor was a master at keeping his cards close until the perfect moment. "She's proof that talent, when paired with grit, is unstoppable," Victor continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "It's my great honor to introduce our new creative director, Esther Monroe." The name hit Alex like a thunderbolt, a punch to the gut that stole his breath. The bourbon in his glass trembled, the amber liquid rippling. The world around him slowed, the sounds fading into a distant hum. He saw a poised figure rise from a front-row table and glide toward the stage. Time folded in on itself, and for a moment, it wasn't the ballroom he saw, but the living room of the apartment they'd once shared. Cardboard boxes stacked like tombstones of a love long buried. Esther. She ascended the steps with a grace he knew all too well. The navy dress she wore didn't demand attention like Chloe's green. It whispered power, elegance, and a confidence forged in fire. Her hair, now cropped shorter, framed a face that time had sharpened, highlighting the intelligence in her eyes and the resolve in her jaw. She wasn't the same woman he'd left behind. She was something more, something formidable. "What's wrong, Alex? You look like you've seen a ghost." Chloe's voice snapped him back, sharp and probing. "Do you know her?" He barely managed a nod, his throat dry. Know her? He knew the sound of her laugh at 3 in the morning, the way she wrinkled her nose when deep in thought, the faint scar above her left eyebrow from a childhood skateboarding mishap. He knew her soul, or at least the soul she'd let him glimpse before it all fell apart. Esther took the microphone, and the silence in the room was absolute. "Thank you, Victor. It's an honor and a privilege to be back and part of this new journey." Her voice was the same, calm, controlled, with that velvety timbre that could soothe a crisis or pitch a million-dollar idea. But there was a new edge to it, a layer of steel that hadn't been there before. "I believe creativity isn't a department. It's the culture that breathes in every hallway, every meeting, and I'm here to build that culture with all of you." Her gaze swept the crowd, professional, all-encompassing. For a split second, her eyes locked with Alex's. No flicker, no shift in her expression, but he felt it, a live wire snapping in the air between them. A silent acknowledgement of a shared past, now crushed under the weight of their professional present. In that moment, he wasn't her ex-husband. He was just another face in the crowd. The realization stung like a slap. The rest of the night blurred, speeches, toasts, forced small talk. Alex moved like a robot, his smile fixed while his mind spun in circles. Esther was here, not just in the same city but in the same company, his partner in the trenches. The irony was so cruel, it bordered on poetic. He watched her from afar, mingling with directors and managers, shaking hands, flashing that polished smile he knew was her armor. He hid behind columns, lingered at the bar, faked an important call on the terrace. Every move was an evasion tactic. He needed time to process, to recalibrate reality in his head. The ghost of his marriage wasn't locked away in the vault of his memories anymore. It was walking the ballroom in designer heels, about to steer his career. "You've been off since that woman showed up," Chloe said, her voice laced with suspicion as she touched up her lipstick using her phone's reflection. "Is she just an old co-worker?" "Something like that," he lied, the word ex-wife too heavy to utter here. "We worked together ages ago, didn't end on great terms." It was the understatement of the century. They hadn't ended. They'd imploded, a detonation of accusations, hurt, and a final silence that lasted years. The party began to wind down. Guests trickled out. Alex felt a flicker of relief. Maybe he could escape without a direct confrontation. Maybe the universe would grant him that small mercy. But the universe, he should have known, didn't deal in mercy. As he and Chloe headed for the exit, Victor's voice rang out behind them. "Alex, a moment!" His heart sank as he turned. Beside Victor, poised and elegant, stood Esther. The confrontation he dodged all night was about to unfold under the lobby's blazing lights. "Alex, I want to formally introduce your new boss," Victor said, oblivious to the bomb about to detonate. "Esther, this is Alex Carter, our top account executive. He's the linchpin for the project that'll kick off our merger. The one you'll be leading." Alex's world stopped spinning, not just his boss, the leader of the most critical project of his career. They wouldn't just share an office building, they'd share meeting rooms, deadlines, pressure. They were tethered. Esther extended her hand, the gesture purely professional. Her eyes, though, held a universe of untold stories. "Carter, I've heard about your work. I hope you're ready for a challenge." The way she said his last name was a line in the sand, a wall between what they'd been and what they were now. He shook her hand, her skin cool and firm against his. The contact lasted a second, but it unraveled years of carefully built distance. "Monroe," he replied, his voice steadier than he expected. "Welcome aboard. I'm always ready." Chloe watched the exchange, her eyes narrowing, trying to crack the unspoken code passing between them. The tension was palpable, an electricity only they could feel but visible to anyone paying attention. Victor grinned, pleased. "Excellent. Your first meeting's tomorrow, 8 sharp, in my office. The board wants results, and they want them fast. I'm counting on your synergy." Synergy. The word hung in the air, dripping with devastating irony. Alex felt Chloe's gaze burn into his face, and Esther's analytical stare weighing on him. He was trapped, caught between the woman he was trying to build a future with, and the woman whose past he'd never truly buried. And in the middle of this emotional minefield, he'd have to deliver the biggest project of his life. The night that should have been the peak of his career had become the start of his greatest nightmare. The drive home was quieter than the soft jazz on the radio. Chloe's perfume, once inviting, now felt stifling in the confined space of Alex's BMW. The moment the doors closed, her socialite veneer cracked, revealing the insecurity simmering beneath. "Esther Monroe," she said, the name dripping with accusation. "You said you worked together ages ago. Where? When? Why never mentioned her?" Alex gripped the wheel, knuckles whitening. The adrenaline, the shock, the panic, and the facade of control had left him drained. The last thing he needed was an interrogation. "Chloe, it was years ago. Another agency before Sterling. It's not relevant." "Not relevant?" she shot back, her voice climbing an octave. "She's your new boss, Alex. The woman who made you look like you saw a ghost. The way you two locked eyes. There's more there. Don't treat me like I'm stupid." "Nobody's treating you like you're stupid. I'm exhausted. It was a long night and tomorrow's going to be worse, he said, his tone sharp, patience fraying with every red light. He knew she wasn't wrong. There was more there, a city in ruins between him and Esther. But explaining that? Digging up a coffin he'd sealed shut? Impossible. So that's it? You're just going to shut me out? She pressed as he pulled into their building's garage. He killed the engine, and the silence was thick. I don't have the energy for this right now, Chloe, honestly. They rode the elevator in icy silence. In the apartment, the Manhattan skyline offered no comfort. Alex loosened his tie, tossed his jacket over a chair and headed straight for the bedroom. Chloe followed, her posture rigid, arms crossed. You're not going to say anything? Just turn your back on me? He stripped out of his suit, trading it for sweatpants, each movement a declaration that the night was over. We'll talk tomorrow, he muttered, sliding into bed. Tomorrow you'll be with her. Her voice was a venomous whisper. Alex didn't respond. He pulled the comforter up, turned away from her and forced his eyes shut. Sleep didn't come easily. He lay there, motionless, hearing Chloe's tense breathing from the other side of the bed, feeling the weight of her resentment. She stayed awake, her mind spinning, connecting non-existent dots, feeding the seed of suspicion Esther's arrival had planted. For Alex, sleep was an escape. For Chloe, staying awake was the start of an obsession. Morning light sliced through the window, harsh and unforgiving. Alex woke to the alarm, feeling like he hadn't slept at all. Chloe's side of the bed was empty, cold. A note on the nightstand read, "Need to think." He felt a fleeting relief, then immediate guilt for feeling it, and shoved it all into a mental compartment. Today, survival was the only focus. At 8 sharp, he stepped into Victor's meeting room. The smell of fresh coffee hung in the air. Victor sat at the head of the table, and in one of the chairs, perfectly poised, was Esther. She wore a tailored blazer and thin-rimmed glasses that gave her an even sharper, more cerebral edge. Her eyes flicked up over the frames as he entered. "Morning, Carter," she said, her tone neutral, professional. "Morning, Monroe." "Victor," he replied, taking a seat across the table, keeping a safe distance. Victor didn't waste time. "Folks, the board's breathing down our necks." The merger was pricey, and they want a symbolic win now. The client is Luminary Beauty, launching their new luxury line. The budget's massive, but the competition's cutthroat. Word is Baxter & Wells is cooking up something big. We need to be better, faster, smarter. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. I want the full concept presentation in 3 weeks, not a month. 3 weeks. Alex's stomach dropped. 3 weeks was brutal, nearly suicidal for a project of this scale. It demanded total immersion, sleepless nights, an obsession-level commitment, and he'd have to do it with her. Esther didn't flinch. It's a tight timeline, Victor, but doable with full autonomy and the resources we need. You've got a blank check, Victor declared. Alex, your strategy team, Esther, your creative vision. I want you two to be one brain. This project's success is the company's success. Failure's not an option. He stood. The room's yours. The door closed, leaving a silence heavy with history. Alex and Esther faced each other across the polished glass table. For a moment, their professional masks slipped. He saw the woman he'd shared a cramped Brooklyn apartment with early in their careers. She saw the man whose dreams once intertwined with hers. Esther broke the silence, pushing her glasses up. Look, Alex, this is unexpected for both of us. Unexpected's an understatement, he said, his voice rough. Right. So let's cut to it, she said, her director's tone returning. What happened between us stays outside this room. In here, I'm the creative director, you're the marketing executive. Our past doesn't exist. Nobody in this company, especially Victor, can know our history. It'd be a professional disaster for both of us. Agreed? Agreed, he said, grateful for the clear boundary. It was a lifeline he desperately needed. Professionalism above all. Good. Let's start. Tell me about Luminary Beauty. And so they dove in. Hours turned into days. Meetings piled up, with the planning team, copywriters, art directors. They turned a project room into their war room, its walls soon plastered with whiteboards, flowcharts, and colored, sticky notes. The initial tension gave way to a fierce, focused dynamic. They clashed, debated, challenged each other, but there was a reluctant respect for each other's skill. Alex admired how Esther's mind dissected a problem and found an unexpected creative angle. She recognized his knack for turning abstract ideas into concrete, market-ready strategies. To the office, they were the new dream team, the synergy Victor craved. But for them, every interaction was a tightrope walk. A comment, a glance, a shared memory surfacing unbidden, all quickly smothered for the sake of professionalism. Meanwhile, a storm brewed in Alex's personal life. Chloe called constantly, showed up at the office during lunch. Her surprise visits clearly meant to stake her claim. She watched from afar as Alex and Esther huddled over spreadsheets in a meeting room, her imagination filling the gaps with betrayal. "You barely have time for me," she snapped during a rushed Tuesday night dinner, the first time Alex left the office before 10. "But for her, you've got all the time in the world." "Chloe, it's the biggest project of my career. The deadline's insane." "It's not about her. It's about the work," he argued, exhaustion sharpening his tone. "Don't lie to me, Alex," she exploded, drawing stares from nearby tables. "I see how you look at her. I see how she looks at you. There's something there. I feel it. You think I don't notice you come home smelling like her perfume?" He recoiled, stunned. Her perfume? They barely touched. But he realized that hours in a closed room might have let Esther's subtle scent cling to his clothes. It was an intimate accusation, yet entirely fabricated. Chloe's paranoia was crafting an alternate reality he didn't know how to fight. Every attempt to reassure her was seen as a lie, every professional explanation dismissed as a flimsy excuse. The forced closeness at work was carving an uncrossable chasm at home. He was caught in the middle, pressure closing in from all sides, days blurred into a haze of strong coffee, sleepless nights, and a creative intensity Alex hadn't felt in years. Under the crushing deadline, something unexpected happened. The armor of professionalism, though firmly in place, began to show hairline cracks. It happened in mundane moments. One night, reviewing storyboards side by side, their hands brushed, reaching for the same marker, a fleeting, electric touch that made them both pull back like they'd grazed a live wire. They caught each other staring. Sometimes Alex looked up from a spreadsheet and found her watching him, not with the critical eye of a director, but with an unreadable, almost wistful expression, before she blinked and the professional mask snapped back. He did the same, losing himself for a moment in how the projector's light caught her hair as she pitched an idea with passion, a mix of strength and vulnerability only he seemed to notice. These were dangerous moments, embers of an old fire they rushed to extinguish before anyone saw the smoke. The team, though, only saw magic. The campaign was taking spectacular shape. Esther's core idea, refined by Alex's strategy, was bold. Instead of unattainable models, they'd tell real women's stories, tying Luminary's luxury line not to perfection, but to journeys, resilience, and authentic beauty. It was moving, real, and everyone felt they had gold in their hands. The bomb dropped on a grey Tuesday. Alex was in his office when a young analyst, Jake, burst in without knocking, his face pale. "Alex, you need to see this," he said, slapping a tablet on the desk. On the screen, a freshly released video flashed the Baxter & Wells logo. It was for a smaller skincare brand, but the concept, it was eerily familiar. Not the full campaign, but it leaned on the journey of beauty and luxury and imperfection, phrases and ideas hashed out behind closed doors at Sterling. It was a diluted version, less potent, but the seed was undeniably the same. Alex's blood ran cold. He looked at Jake, who just shrugged, eyes wide. "It's all over the ad blogs. Dropped this morning." The news spread through the floor like wildfire. Whispers started by the coffee machine in hallway huddles. The celebratory vibe of weeks past soured, replaced by a heavy air of suspicion. Who leaked? How did the competition get hold of such an embryonic, guarded idea? Admiring glances turned to wary stares. The obvious targets, the two at the center of it all. Alex, the strategist who knew every angle. Esther, the new director, the outsider shaking things up. Their leadership made them prime suspects. A whispered rumor suggested Esther might have planted the idea for personal gain. Another nastier one hinted Alex could have a contact at Baxter and Wells. The pressure became nearly unbearable. The once tight team fractured. People hesitated to share ideas, the creative flow choked by fear. Alex and Esther felt the project slipping through their fingers, not from lack of merit but poisoned by distrust. That afternoon they met in the project room, now a crime scene. The idea-covered walls seemed to mock them. "They didn't steal the whole campaign," Esther said, her voice tight, pacing. "They stole its soul, enough to make us look derivative if we launch now." "It came from inside, Esther. No other explanation," Alex said, feeling the weight of unspoken accusations. "Someone on this team or with access to this room talked, or someone who heard from someone," she finished, stopping to face him. Her eyes burned with frustration, and for the first time, a flash of fear. Her reputation, the reason she'd come back, was at stake. So was his. "We can't work like this," he said, a decision forming. "The fear's killing creativity. Trust is gone. If we don't fix this now, the project dies, and our careers might go with it." "What do you suggest?" she asked, arms crossed, defensive. "Full transparency. We go to Victor, together, lay out the rumors, the team's vibe, ask for a complete internal audit, emails, server logs, everything. It's the only way to clear the air." He paused, locking eyes with her. "And our names?" Esther studied him for a long moment. An audit was a gamble. It could look like panic, or uncover something they didn't want. But letting suspicion fester was worse. It was a declaration of war against the invisible traitor in their midst. "You're right," she finally said, chin up, defiant. "We won't let a saboteur take us down. Let's do it. Together." The word "together" hit differently this time. Not forced professional collaboration, but an alliance forged in crisis, a united front against a shared threat. They left the project room and marched to Victor's office, side by side, unaware the enemy they sought was closer than they imagined. Victor's office door closed behind them, leaving a heavy silence. He stared, fingers laced on his desk, expression unreadable. An internal audit was a double-edged sword. It showed integrity, but admitted a major failure in team security and cohesion. "An audit," Victor echoed, voice low. "You realize what you're asking. It'll paralyze the team, create a witch hunt." "The witch hunt's already here, Victor," Esther cut in, voice steady. "Suspicions in the hallways. The only way forward is the truth. We need to know we can trust the people in that room with us, and frankly, we need the team to trust us." Alex nodded. "The Baxter and Wells campaign wasn't a coincidence. Someone leaked. If we don't find out who and how, it'll happen again. The audit's not just to clear names, it's to protect the company's future." Victor mulled it over, drumming his fingers. He looked from Alex to Esther, weighing their united front. Their resolve was undeniable. "Fine," he relented. "I'll get Ite on it. But I want it fast and quiet. And while they work, I need you two to figure out how to save this campaign. I'm not pitching a similar concept to the board." The next few days brought a cold tension to Sterling and partners. The IT crew, led by a no-nonsense guy named Ryan, moved silently through the floor. Emails were scanned, access logs checked, file histories dissected. Everyone knew what was happening. Conversations hushed when techs neared. Every employee felt under a microscope, and productivity tanked. Alex and Esther holed up in the project room, trying to rebuild what was sabotaged. The pressure welded them closer. They didn't need to worry about appearances anymore. They were in the trenches together, fighting for the same cause. After nearly a week, Victor called a meeting with the project team. The room crackled with anxious energy. "Ite finished the audit," Victor announced. "No preamble. A full sweep of our systems, internal comms, shared files." He paused, his gaze sweeping every face. "The finding is there's no evidence of a leak from company devices or accounts. No proof against any Sterling employee." A collective sigh of relief rippled through. Shoulders relaxed, glances softened, suspicion easing. Alex felt a massive weight lift. He caught Esther's eye, seeing the same relief mirrored. They were cleared. Still, an uneasy mystery lingered. If the leak didn't come from inside, how did it happen? The question hung, but for now, relief dominated. That night, Alex got home exhausted but lighter. Chloe was on the couch, flipping through a magazine, her posture stiff. "It's over," he said, loosening his tie. "The audit's done. They found nothing. Nobody inside leaked." "Oh?" she said, eyes on the magazine. "So you're clear?" "We're clear. The whole team," he corrected, irked by her tone. "I'm glad it's done. It was a hell of a week." Chloe looked up, a forced smile on her lips. "Sure, babe. Glad for you. Must have been awful, people doubting you." Her voice was supportive, but her eyes held a coldness that didn't match. She seemed more interested in his clearance than relieved by it. With the audit closed and the leak mystery filed as an unexplained fluke, the deadline's urgency roared back. Alex and Esther dove into the final presentation prep. They didn't just salvage the campaign, they reinvented it. They kept the emotional core of real stories, but added digital interactivity and a phased launch strategy, making it untouchable. Nights became their routine. With the team dismissed, they stayed late, surrounded by takeout containers and coffee cups. Their messy past, though ever-present, faded to the background. The intellectual chemistry that sparked their early careers resurfaced with force. They finished each other's sentences, anticipated concerns, built ideas with a fluidity that left late-working colleagues in awe. The wall between them crumbled, not from romance, but from intense collaboration. Presentation day arrived. The boardroom, all dark wood and stern faces, was intimidating. Alex felt the usual nerves, but seeing Esther calmly connect her laptop, he felt a surge of confidence. They launched in. Esther pitched the concept with restrained passion, her voice weaving the campaign's story. Alex followed with data, market strategy, media plans, showing how the idea translated to hard numbers. They played a sample video, genuine testimonials, flawless aesthetics that silenced the room. When the lights came up, there was a beat of quiet before the board chair. A notoriously tough critic started clapping. The room followed. "Brilliant," the chair said. "This is exactly what the new Sterling needs. Emotion, authenticity, and a rock-solid strategy. Approved. Launch ASAP." The euphoria was tangible. Leaving the room, Alex and Esther shared an exhausted, genuine smile. "We did it," he whispered. Fueled by victory's adrenaline, splitting up felt wrong. "We deserve more than a keyboard sandwich," Alex said almost impulsively. "Dinner to celebrate." Esther hesitated for a second. "I think we've earned it." They went to a quiet bistro, a place neither knew from their shared past. With the project's weight lifted, talk flowed to the one place they'd avoided, the past. It wasn't accusatory, but reflective. For the first time, they spoke openly about the divorce. Alex admitted his blind ambition, the endless work hours that disconnected him. Esther owned her impatience, her frustration with a marriage that lost its way. "We were too young, trying to be too perfect," she said, swirling her wineglass. "At work and home, no room for mistakes." "I made mistakes," he admitted, the confession heavy. "I should have fought harder for us, not just my career." "We both did," she replied, her gaze free of judgment, only a quiet acceptance. "Maybe we had to go through it to become who we are now." In that moment, years of hurt dissolved in the restaurant's warm light. They weren't rekindling a flame, but clearing rubble, finding neutral ground of respect and forgiveness. They left as survivors of a long war, finally at peace with their story, unaware the real battle was still coming. The dinner left Alex lighter than he'd felt in years, like a heavy door he'd been pushing had finally shut, letting him breathe. The professional win, paired with personal peace, gave him new energy. He decided to channel it into fixing things with Chloe. Guilt for neglecting her during the project's chaos weighed on him, and he wanted to prove to her and himself that their relationship was still his priority. On Saturday, he made an elaborate breakfast and brought it to her in bed. "Let's spend the day together," he said, smiling genuinely. "No interruptions, no work talk. How about a drive upstate, lunch somewhere nice?" Chloe, who'd been icy since the audit news, looked surprised. A flicker of delight crossed her face, quickly replaced by caution. "A drive? Just us?" she asked, searching for hidden meaning. "Just us," he confirmed. The day went as planned. The crisp Catskills air, rolling green hills, a cozy restaurant. It should have been perfect for reconciliation. Alex tried asking about her job, her friends, aiming to rebuild intimacy. But an invisible wall remained. Chloe's answers were curt, her gaze distant. Suspicion sat like a third passenger in the car. Over dinner at a sleek uptown spot, the tension broke. "You seem happy," she said, poking at her plate. "Must be nice to win. You and her." The way she said "her" turned Esther's name into an insult. Alex sighed, exhaustion creeping back. "Chloe, we've been over this. It was a team win for the company." "But the celebration was just you two, right?" she shot back, voice low and sharp. "A cozy little dinner. What else did you celebrate, Alex?" He stared, stunned by the veiled accusation. "It was dinner. Two colleagues celebrating the end of a brutal project. It was a talk to close a complicated past from when we worked together, that's all. I owe you respect, and that's exactly what it was. A respectful conversation." "Respect?" She laughed, a joyless sound. "You think I don't see? You've changed since she showed up. There's a spark in you that wasn't there before. And it's not because of me. You had something with her, didn't you? Admit it." "That's not true," he said, voice firm but heart heavy. "What I feel is respect for a competent professional and relief we sorted our past to work together again. No romance, nothing but a professional partnership. I'm with you, Chloe." His words, though honest, rang hollow in her abyss of insecurity. She didn't want truth, she wanted her worst fears confirmed. The night ended in tense silence, the reconciliation attempt a resounding failure. The crack in their relationship didn't heal, it widened. Monday brought a stark contrast at Sterling & Partners. The luminary Your Beauty, Your Journey campaign launched to immediate, overwhelming success. The main video, with its raw stories and cinematic polish, went viral. The campaign's hashtag topped trending lists. People shared their own stories, praising the brand's courage and authenticity. Trade press raved, calling it a milestone in beauty advertising and a masterclass in connecting brand and consumer. The office was electric. Victor strode through, grinning ear to ear, shaking hands. Champagne bottles popped at day's end. Alex and Esther were the stars, fielding congratulations from all sides. They shared looks of professional camaraderie over the crowd, a silent nod to what they'd achieved together. Sterling's victory was undeniable. They hadn't just won a battle, they'd won the narrative war. The leak, still an unsolved mystery, felt like a footnote in a triumph. Alex leaned into the positivity, using it as a balm for his strained relationship, focusing on the win, the camaraderie, the satisfaction of a job well done, delaying the inevitable clash waiting at home. The launch's high lasted days, a rush of adrenaline and bubbly keeping Sterling in a state of grace. But on Thursday afternoon, Alex's shield shattered. Victor's assistant called. "Mr. Hammond needs you in his office, now urgent." Her tone sent a chill through him. He walked to the CEO's office, mind racing through possible disasters. Inside, Victor's face was grim. Beside him stood Ryan, the IT lead, holding a tablet. No smiles, no congratulations. The air was thick. "Sit, Alex," Victor said, voice void of warmth. Alex complied, heart pounding. "The leak mystery never sat right," Victor began. "The first audit found nothing in our systems, a relief but an anomaly. So I had Ryan think outside the box, a deeper sweep, not for internal breaches but external intrusion." Ryan cleared his throat. "We widened the net, checked remote access logs, employee home Wi-Fi connections, and we talked to someone I trust at Baxter & Wells. We found something." He turned the tablet toward Alex. A mess of code and numbers, one line highlighted. The leak didn't come from inside. It came from outside. From a device on your apartment's Wi-Fi. Alex stared, brain scrambling. "My apartment? That's impossible. It gets worse," Victor cut in, voice like stone. "We traced the IP of the device that sent the email to a Baxter & Wells contact. It matches a personal laptop, Chloe Prado's laptop." Alex's world tilted. A ringing filled his ears. Chloe. It couldn't be. A mistake. A horrible error. "There's more," Ryan said, his tone clinical, merciless. The email used to send the campaign concepts was created for this. The sender was esthercarterofficialemail.com. Esther Carter, Esther's name. A name no one at the company but him would know. A name used with one intent, to frame Esther in a devastating way, making it seem she not only leaked but was still tied to him. The cruelty took his breath away. Alex was speechless, face ashen, reality reshaping into something horrific. Chloe's paranoia, her accusations, her coldness post-audit, it all clicked into a monstrous picture. Alex, Victor said, softer now, seeing his shock. This is betrayal on a level I've rarely seen, personal and professional. What you do about it is your call, but professionally I need this vulnerability gone now. Alex nodded, numb, thanked them mechanically, and left like a sleepwalker. He didn't return to his desk. He took the elevator, crossed the lobby and drove home. Manhattan's traffic a silent film. Every puzzle piece fell into place. Every lie, every jealous outburst, every fake supportive word. It was all a charade. He found Chloe at home, making tea in the kitchen, humming lightly. The normalcy was grotesque. "We need to talk," he said, his voice empty, startling her. She turned, her smile fading at his expression. "What's wrong? You look sick." "The laptop. Your laptop," he said, cutting to it. "They found it, Chloe. They know the leak came from your computer, from our apartment." Her face drained of color. Panic flashed in her eyes before she masked it with forced outrage. "What? That's ridiculous. Someone must have hacked my Wi-Fi. I'd never—" "Stop," he said, voice rising, raw with pain. "Stop lying. The email, Chloe. Esther Carter. Who else would know that name? Who else would have the hate to use it?" Her denial wavered. Tears welled, not from remorse, but from being caught. I don't know what you're talking about. Confess," he shouted, pain turning to fury. "I deserve the truth. After everything, I deserve that much." Cornered, her facade crumbled. She sank into a chair, face in hands, sobs shaking her. "I found out," she confessed, voice muffled. "I heard you on the phone with your mum weeks ago, right after Esther showed up. Heard her name, the panic in your voice. I pieced it together. Looked her up. Found out you were married. You lied to me, Alex. You said she was just a co-worker. I lied to protect a messy professional situation, to avoid exactly the kind of insanity you pulled," he shot back. "Insanity," she screamed, lifting her tear-streaked face. "I saw how you looked at her. The connection. I knew you still felt something. I had to do something. I wanted her gone." The full confession poured out, a torrent of jealousy and twisted justifications. She admitted sending the info to a contact at Baxter & Wells, a favor owed. The plan was simple, diabolical, sabotage the project to make it fail. She hoped the blame would fall on Esther, the outsider. The fake email was the masterstroke, designed to point at Esther if uncovered, ensuring her firing and humiliation. She wanted to push Alex away from his ex-wife, to save their relationship by ruining Esther's career. Alex listened, shock giving way to deep nausea. Not just jealousy, a calculated malicious betrayal risking his career, Esther's and the company's future. She didn't just betray him, she used him, used their home as a base for corporate espionage, and tried to destroy another person out of her own insecurities. When she finished, the silence was deafening. Alex looked at the woman before him and saw a stranger capable of a cruelty he'd never imagined. "It's over, Chloe," he said, voice void of emotion, hollow and final. "Pack your things. I want you out of my house, out of my life." "Alex, no, please," she begged, reaching for him, but he stepped back like she was poison. "I did it for us, because I love you." "No," he said, eyes cold as ice. "You don't love, you possess, and you destroy. It's over." He turned and went to the bedroom, shutting the door. He didn't want to see her, hear her. He sat on the bed's edge, the betrayal's weight crushing him. He'd lost a relationship, but what hurt more was how blind he'd been. Behind the locked door, Alex heard Chloe's departure. No heartbroken sobs, just angry sounds of drawers emptying and closet doors slamming. The pain of betrayal was sharp, but beneath it ran a current of sadness. He'd cared for Chloe. She was vibrant, stunning, and for a few months seemed like the promise of an uncomplicated future. They weren't married, but she'd moved in, a hasty step that now felt reckless. He saw her immaturity, the insecurity that drove her to this desperate act. He could, in theory, understand the jealousy, but the calculated coldness of her plan, to destroy Esther's career and by extension his, wasn't love, it was sabotage. When the bedroom door opened, he didn't move. Chloe stood in the doorway, two suitcases at her side, face streaked with mascara but chin raised in defiance. "You know what, Alex?" she said, voice laced with defensive venom. "You're doing me a favor. I deserve better. I'll find someone who doesn't live for work. Someone younger, richer, who can give me the life I deserve, not obsessed with some awful ex-wife." Her words, meant to sting, brought only cold clarity. Her self-portrait, her confession of true priorities, confirmed he was escaping something that would have made him miserable. He didn't respond. He just heard the front door slam, the sound echoing through the now quiet apartment, the sound of a chapter closing abruptly, necessarily. The next day, Alex went to the office, drained but oddly free. He asked to speak with Esther privately. They met in the project room where they'd fought and won together. He didn't mince words, recounting everything: the IT discovery, the confrontation, Chloe's confession. Esther listened silently, her expression shifting from confusion to shock to a deep, calm compassion. "No, I told you so." No hint of triumph. When he finished, she shook her head, a heavy sigh escaping. "I'm so sorry, Alex," she said softly. "Sorry you went through this. And sorry for her, for being so lost she'd do something like that." Her response hit hard. No drama, no blame, just mature empathy, embracing the situation's complexity. She saw his pain, the act's malice, even Chloe's tragedy. In that moment, Alex realized the quiet power of a woman who saw the world in shades of grey, handling crisis with grace, not panic. They kept focus on work, managing the campaign's roaring success. Their professional partnership, already strong, was cemented by this final crisis. A new layer of trust grew, a respect beyond spreadsheets and deadlines. They were survivors of a divorce, a sabotage, a threat that could have destroyed them both. Lighter, freed from a toxic relationship he hadn't realized was suffocating him, Alex reflected. The professional win at Sterling had been a catalyst, not just boosting his career but exposing cracks in his personal life, forcing him to cut ties that held him back. He felt like he'd emerged from a long storm, the sky finally clearing, revealing a horizon of possibilities. And increasingly, Esther's silhouette stood out in that horizon. A week later, with the dust settled, he found her by the coffee machine. "You know," he said, a bit nervous, "we never had a real celebration. The first was more a truce," he smiled. "How about a real dinner this time to celebrate the win and new beginnings?" Esther looked at him, a warm, genuine smile lighting her face. "I'm in, Alex." That night, he waited at a sophisticated yet cozy Italian restaurant's entrance. When Esther arrived, Alex's breath caught. Her emerald dress matched her eyes, her hair loose over her shoulders. She wasn't just stunning in a corporate way, but radiant with the confidence of a woman at peace. She approached with a smile, and he leaned to kiss her cheek. At the same moment, she moved the same way. Their lips brushed in a soft, clumsy collision, electric, unexpected, tender. They pulled back, faces flushed, eyes wide with surprise. Then they laughed, a free, genuine laugh that shattered years of tension and weight. It was the sound of two people who'd lost each other and, against all odds, were starting to find their way back. "I guess we're still a bit out of sync," he teased, voice rough. Under the restaurant's soft lights, they sat to dine, not as ex-spouses, not as colleagues, but as two people with a tangled past and, for the first time in years, an open future. Did you enjoy this thrilling story about second chances and life's unexpected twists? The journey of Alex and Esther shows us that sometimes you need to close one door for the right window to open. If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new romances. Your engagement is what inspires us to bring you more captivating stories. And let us know in the comments below which city you're tuning in from. Thanks for watching and see you in the next story.